So we have Are Olade Ndiario, who is joining us to look at this. He's here with us in the studio live. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you today again.
I've become your in-house or resident
Yes,
economist.
exactly, regular. and that's why, of course, because of, how important it is to look at these issues, we need to bring you over and over and again to
Thank
look
you
at
for
some of
having
these
me.
issues. So, okay, so let's look at the first story here. Queues are back at the filling stations.
Right.
But what the Nnpcl is saying, is that there are about 339 million liters of petrol has been distributed just in 1 week. Yeah, and remember, between just about the space of 3 weeks, they said, look, we're going to distribute about 1.7 billion to Lagos,
Which they did.
Which of course they
By their records.
by the records. But the question is, why do we still have queues at the filling station?
If I tell you now, you'll be surprised. I was a victim twice. Today is Thursday.
Yes.
On Monday, I got into the station, and then they asked me, cash or card, ATM card. I knew that if I had said any of those two, they won't sell to me. And I was in a bad situation. I simply said cash. So I bought the fuel. After buying, I don't want to do the transfer. The transfer left my phone. It didn't land on their phone. I was ready to do the waiting. It took me 4 hours, 27 minutes before it landed. So invariably, you may say I was not being straightforward with them, but my fuel was finishing. I needed to get home. I'm not the reason why there is no cash. It's not my fault.
Right.
I have my money in the bank, but I've been there and they will tell me, sorry, they don't have cash. Now, that kept me waiting for that long. It was a waste of my time. That's one example. Now, if you choose to tell them and say, okay, you don't have cash, you want to do ATM, you want to use POS, they created different circles. Somebody with 2 or 3 POS, you go there and give them until the payment is effected. They now give you receipts to go and give the dispenser by the pump.
Before
they
they
will now give you
dispense.
All those things, they take time. Okay, if you are going to do transfer, it's always a nightmare because the banking infrastructure for e-banking in Nigeria today does not have the capacity to accommodate the traffic of transactions that came upon us due to the Naira exchange and, of course, the forced advancement of cashless operations. So if you see any queue anywhere, it's not because they don't have fuel. They have fuel. There's a station in Baga. Yesterday, I was calling from a radio station and I said, what's happening here? They said they have fuel, but they take cash only. They don't even want to hear POS or anything. So it's no longer.
People have to be on the queue to wait to take their turn to pay.
They don't even let you queue. You just park somewhere. So whoever has cash will just come straight, buy, pay, and go. Now, the call should be on to Nnpcl and to CBN and the governor of CBN, actually the president, for them to know that they needed to comply with the order of the Supreme Court. Because it's not fair. If you study the judgment of the court, there was a place where they said it was very wrong to determine how much people can take from their money, which was kept in their account. That was fundamentally wrong. And that on no account should people be made to go through all the agony, all the pain, including death in some instances.
So what
they
we
should go and obey the order.
But where do we put the blame now? Because yes, the Supreme Court ruling is out there, and people should take advantage of that. Even with that Supreme Court ruling, we understand that some report that we got yesterday shows that even some people were rejecting the old Naira note. So that's another issue.
Yeah, because they've not heard from the president.
So that's why.
Or let me say from the federal government.
So where do we put the blame? I mean, the CBN or the presidency, who has to, give a directive to the CBN to say, look, issue a circular and let the banks, start dispensing this.
The CBN reports to the president or presidency. Pick anyone that you like. The order should have been passed down to
Right.
CBN. Mr. Man, these are the orders from the Supreme Court. Ensure that they are implemented forthwith. And I would have expected CBN to immediately reach out to the banks, and then we won't be where we are. But the president left the country to go and collect one ECOWAS award somewhere, also went to Qatar. I'm not sure if he's back. Talking about misplaced priorities.
So
President should carry the can,
yeah, but
not even
is
CBN.
this a deliberate, act, or let's say
We got into
content,
this nonsense
like
when
act
they
of
said they
disobedience,
want
like
to
you said.
they want to reduce liquidity, making it impossible for political contestants to buy votes. They push us into this. Now the major election is over. Unfortunately, we thought if we vote on Saturday, by Monday, Tuesday, when the results are released and there will be no votes to buy in, sanity will return. INEC has pushed the election forward by another week. You will not believe how many people have been stagnated
Right. Would
by
it be,
all of these things.
Just a moment. Would it be too early to say the presidency and the CBN are disobeying court order?
You don't have to say too early. When that court is not supreme because of the order it gives. It is supreme because it's unquestionable. So the orders are not, the moment it is landed, whether you like it or not, whether it's in tandem with your intention or not, you go with it and then you run with it. But in this case, they have flagrantly disobeyed the court order. Unfortunately, National Assembly, I should have called them to order, they're not in session. So we are all left stranded.
I just want to believe. I want to believe. Maybe the president is trying to take his time.
He cannot. When it comes to
given his body
it's a
language.
basic thing in sort of democracy. 3 arms of government. One checkmates the other.
Right.
Abi? So nobody has any reason whatsoever to delay in obeying order from any court. Talk more of the Supreme Court of the land. That's the numero uno court in the land.
Because this, of course, has definitely direct implication on business.
Grievous implications, if you ask me.
Business and economic activity.
Even the banks are not making money. They're not in operation, so to say. Because maybe a branch that gives out 1 billion in a day, in the last 2 months or so, they've been barely able to give out 100,000 naira. I told my experience in my bank that we had to queue for so long. I have 4 accounts with the same branch. 2 of my company, my personal account, my daughter. And they refuse to pay me on the 4 accounts. Whereas they collect COT on the 4 accounts. And what did they give me? Paltry 15,000 naira. Far away from my need. The net effect was that when my daughter needed money during the week, I had to buy 3,000 from her for 5,000 naira. Am I making profit from that?
That's more than 50%.
Because a lot of people go through wars. When it gets to the point where you are against the wall, your back is against the wall, there is no option again. You will have to just do whatever the POS man or whoever is selling, offers you. It was that. As I'm seated here, I don't have 1 kobo on me.
Well, but I hope in the coming days, perhaps we'll start seeing.
Nothing will happen. I'm being prophetic now. Nothing will happen until after the next election.
But the election has been postponed.
But exactly.
By
we are in for a night of long knife.
It's going to be a long ride indeed. But let's move away now.
Before we move away,
yes.
Think of the universal laws, the round robin effect on the investor, on employers, on the banking system, and the economy. The economy now, whether you like it or not, is shrinking, is collapsing, because the volume has been reduced by virtue of reduced transaction, either in terms of cash flow or in terms of patronage. Well. Maybe when we finish, I will send you 1,000 naira. I don't have money, right? I'll give you then and wait and see how long it will take before it gets on your phone.
Okay, so let's be hopeful. Let's be hopeful.
That's what we've been hanging on all this while.
That's so, and I hope that they should be able to do something, as soon as possible. But the second story talked about food security and the fact that organization talking about United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization (FAO) talking about that Nigeria population will grow to about 400 million by 2050. So the concern, therefore, is how do we feed 400 population when at this time we can even barely feed ourselves? I mean, yeah, but
I don't like the word we can even barely. We cannot feed ourselves.
Well, because I'm looking at the possibility of
I'm saying
doing
now,
something between now and 2050.
Now we cannot feed ourselves. So by the time we get to 2050, I pray that projection of 400 million will not materialize. Okay? It will be double jeopardy. You want to ask yourself, why are we where we are? Purely because of insecurity. A lot of the farmers, either in the southwest, southeast, north central, or the entire north, they've been chased out of their farms by kidnappers, by bandits, and by terrorists. We got to a point where some had to pay the bandits some taxes before they could go and work on their farms. In some cases, they will work for 4 days on the farms belonging to the bandits or the criminals before they have 3 days to work on their own farm. In other cases, they come and capture their wives and their daughters in exchange for space for them to work on their farm. And this is why we said, in a country where we still have a government and we are going through all of this. So that is what pushed us into food insecurity. Unfortunately, the Russian-Ukraine crisis also came in because we were getting a lot of wheat from Ukraine. That also came in and bread became a big deal. Unfortunately, I don't eat bread. You know, I'm a farmer, I'm a bushman. So it didn't affect me in any way. But talking seriously, government, I'm talking to the incoming government now.
Right.
Because I don't expect anything new from this old and
you're not optimistic.
No, there's not.
The outgoing
because
government
whatever,
now, yes, we still have like
game
less
plan
than 3
they had
months,
to put up,
2
they
months
had
rather.
all of 7 years and 8 months or 9 months or so. They did all they could do, and as I always say, their best was not good enough, and it's still not good enough for us. So the new government should know that the first thing they have to tackle is insecurity. If they can tackle that, farmers can go back to their farms. If they can achieve that, movement that has been so restricted can be enhanced. People will go to where they have to go. Those who have to move goods and services, they will do that. So life can become normal. We cannot afford the laxity and the insecurity of the last 7 months. No. We can't go forward. And we can't afford to remain static. And
the reason why, again, perhaps we're at this level is because we've not even considered the loss, the humongous loss that the insecurity has brought on the nation.
Unfortunately,
in terms of naira value,
I'm with you.
what we should be exporting, the market that should have opened up for us and all that.
Now, apart from the loss arising from non-exportation, we are also expending our hard-earned money to import goods, huge amount. You know what we are doing? Each time we bring a bag of rice from Thailand, you are bringing a bag of unemployment to Nigeria as well. Because the farmer who should be on the farm is being handicapped. So it's been thrown out under a moving bus.
Right.
I mean, despite all the laudable projects that they put up towards agri and promotion, it didn't work. Closely linked with that is the Anchor Borrowers Program. Those who don't have farms were the ones that had easy access to those monies, those loans. They were collecting the loans for God knows what. And guess what? In most cases, they're not paying back. Whereas the farmer that genuinely needs the money, they're not getting nothing. Or maybe pittance. Nobody does that and prosper. No nation can grow or develop if we continue like that. That's why I'm appealing to the incoming government. It will not be business as usual. And I'm also appealing to Nigerians. We have made election the most important aspect of our democracy. Once you vote, you go home. And then you go to rest, forgetting that the person you voted for made some promises. You have some challenges. So you must be on their neck.
Right.
That they must deliver. And Nigerians are not asking for too much. What we're asking for is irreducible minimum to give us good life. We're not asking, I don't want to buy it, I don't need it. But government be able to make it possible for me to leave my house, go to my office. If I have to come here peacefully without breaking a bone.
I think it's a huge call really, and it a tall order for the incoming government.
But we've been setting agenda for the incoming government, and I'm not going to keep quiet.
Yeah. So it's going to be a test of leadership for the incoming government really.
No, there's no room for testing. They must hit the ground running.
Yes. Why I said that, because if you had 8 years for this administration and they could not completely nipped insecurity.
You say completely. Was he any partially nipped in the bud?
Of course, they've appraised themselves.
You remember the train bomb blast? There's some criminals creamed off over 80 billion naira from ransoms. How do you look at that and say, oh, we have done well? They went to a place in Iguebe, in Delta State, right?
Iguebe.
And they took people away in the same state. Just as some people in Ogun State, farmers were taken away, they were asking for 10 million naira per farmer in Ogun State. From what source? And the same way with the ones they were asking for is not 25 million or so. So when you say they have tried, no, nobody pays for trial or endeavor. We pay for performance. You deliver value, then we appreciate you. And if you don't, we strike you.
Well, like you said, let's.
We didn't let them to go and be experimenting with our lives.
For the incoming
every mistake they make tells on our economy and on our lives.
That's right. For the incoming government, they will really need to sit down and like you said, to
hit the ground running. There's no time for trial and error. They must get it right from day one.
All right. So let's move to the next one quickly, if we can finish on time, because we're pressed for time. African Airlines recorded about 124% passenger traffic with growth, but there are two things. Where is Nigeria in all of this? The growth. That's one. Yeah. The second thing is that they are saying the traffic grew because there was a lifting of the COVID-19 policy in China and all of that. So we're talking about African growing, but Nigeria is not capturing all of this report. So I'm here to see it. So what's your opinion about this report, and how do we bring Nigeria into the conversation? Remember, the Nigeria Air we've been talking about is still in the pipeline up till now.
After how many billions gone down the drain?
Yeah, have been expended, but we've yet to get it off the ground.
Let me tell you, that report is of no value to Nigeria, for all I care. Why? Because here, our own situation is negative. Why? Kaduna Airport was violated. Do they still accommodate flights? Maiduguri Airport is opened on special locations. I don't think you can go to Ikeja now and say ticket to Maiduguri. No. So and then of course we had issues with aviation fuel. Was it when they said it's costing about 900 naira per litre now, which is far from what it should be. When the cost of keeping the aircraft either flying or on ground is too high, they pass it to the average passenger, and then they make it impossible for more people to come and enjoy their services. Unfortunately, again, the roads are not safe. So when you look at the play of the play of all those elements and characters, it does not translate to any growth. Rather, it will translate to a reduction in volume of air flights and passengers as well. I'm supposed to be in Abuja.
And currently, looking at the cost of jet fuel and aviation fuel in Nigeria as well.
It has a. That's you know how many liters an average jet will require to move people to Abuja and back, and they must pass this to the average passenger. Now, we're talking of a passenger whose income has not appreciated, whose business has suffered stagnation. So, how will there be growth? I would rather, within our own national boundaries, we look inwards and answer the questions. Why are we where we are with aviation? Had it been we are we have refineries that are working, and we don't have to source for aviation fuel from abroad. Come on, the price won't be that high. You and I know that. And what's affecting the A1 is also affecting diesel. And the one that pains me most is kerosene. And that is what the poorest of the poor use to make their food. A liter of kerosene is over 1,000 naira. A liter. What can you cook with a liter of kerosene? Just make water to soak bread. No. The incoming government, they have their hands full. I hope they will simply start right away and not wait till May 20th or June 10th, whenever they're going to be sworn in. There's a lot to be done.
As a wrap up now, we're talking about the incoming government having their hands full.
The plate is full.
Yes, but again, the concern now is, I hope we will not begin to hear we inherited so and so from so government, because the last time this current administration also,
it became the sing song.
Have been happy on the fact that they inherited great problems.
Up until last year,
they were
and
still
we
talking
told
about
them,
it.
we voted out that government and brought you in because you gave us assurances, you gave us hope, and your was hope. I mean, the promise, hope was the major word in their campaign slogan. Unfortunately, what they gave us is total hopelessness. But as I told you, the voting public, they are now increasingly aware and conscious of keeping the government on its toes, and that is what to expect.
And perhaps that is going to play a huge part in the coming
yes,
election.
it is. Look at the way things have turned out now. Nobody expected Labour Party 2 years ago. Labour emerged as a force from nowhere. We've been talking of a third force that will come from wherever. It was like a prophecy, and Labour came. Today, as at yesterday, Labour has 40 members in the National Assembly. And they are looking forward to produce governors.
40 members, that's 6 in the Senate and about 34 in the House of...
So far, there may be more, but there are still those that are undecided. What that means is that the old Arubo political parties, PDP and Nnpcl, they've been shaking. So they have to also wake up. The era of compliance and being pliable is over.
I think we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Always a delight to have you on our program. Are Olade Ndiario, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's take a break now. When we return, of course, we hit the capital market or the equities market and look at what is likely to happen today. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.